Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Hey, movie lovers, I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson. We are the hosts of the Next Reel Film Podcast.
If you're passionate about films like we are, you'll love our show. Each week, we dive deep into a movie, discussing everything from the story and performances to the cinematography and score.
Not to mention budgets and awards. We have covered iconic series like Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather trilogy, examining themes of power, family, and the dark side of the American dream.
We've explored the works of groundbreaking directors like Catherine Bigelow, discussing her mastery of tension.
We've looked at heist films, great car chases, great years in film, couples on the run, and more.
Our discussions go beyond the surface, examining what makes each film tick. We believe that when the movie ends, the conversation begins.
And we'd love for you to join that conversation. Find the Next Reel Film Podcast on your favorite podcast app or at thenextreel.com.
The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Do you ever get to the end of a movie where the hero had to make a difficult choice, and all you want to do is talk to people about whether they made the right one?
Watch an episode of Star Trek and spend the next few days thinking about the rights of synthetic beings like Data and the Doctor. I became a co-host of the Superhero Ethics podcast because I love those questions, and the people at Wendy's are tired of hearing me talk about them.
We're not a review podcast. We're more interested in questions the characters face and how different works approach similar questions. Sometimes we'll even go behind the camera, talking about how on-screen media gets made and how that affects what questions get asked, which ones don't, and who gets to ask them.
We hit a wide range of media: movies, TV shows, books, and video games.
You can find us under Superhero Ethics wherever you listen to podcasts or go to theethicalpanda.com. But you can also do far more. We love listener feedback and we'll happily talk about your questions or comments on air, and members get special bonus content.
Hashtag not sponsored by Wendy's.
Hello, world. Welcome to the Adrian Moment on TrueStory.fm. I'm Ocean, and I'm joined as always by my partner in sports, movies, and crime, Jim Pullen.
Ooh, I'm liking that. What's up, Ocean?
What's up? Just thinking about the crimes that we're going to be trying to figure out how to do later on today.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, I'm interested. I'm not advocating for crime or anything like that for any of our listeners, but you know, I mean, you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
It could be petty crimes.
It could be. All right. All right. That's cool. I mean, like being cute and handsome. I mean, that's a petty crime, right?
That is. It's a crime how fine you are. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. But I mean, it takes one to know one, though, right?
Yes, let's go with that.
Okay. All right. Hey, you know, I'm thinking about football.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about football?
Well, I was thinking about back in the day of when I was playing in high school. And I don't think I ever shared with you, but one of my coaches was Manu Tuiasosopo.
You know, of the Tuiasosopo family?
Yeah.
Because at least I'm going to assume that is such an odd name to have, but that, you know, there were so many. And then, I guess, did he play in the NFL?
Yeah, former lineman. He was drafted by the Seahawks and then went over to the 49ers, won a Super Bowl, and went on and played some other teams. And then I was fortunate enough to be coached by him, and then fortunate enough to meet some of his kids that ended up, you know, one got drafted to play baseball, one got drafted to play football.
Wow, that's a very athletic family.
Very athletic, and like his daughter was amazing at volleyball at University of Washington, and yeah, I mean the whole family is just like crazy athletic.
Did any of that athleticism rub off on you during your high school football career?
No, I don't think so. I only played for 2 years, unfortunately, but let life get in the way, you know, and other things like needing to work and, you know, not trying to do too much, and plus I didn't like the head coach. I didn't really care for her too much, but
got it.
Tuiasosopo was good though.
Tuiasosopo. So did he play? What is he, offense or defensive line?
Offensive line.
Okay, so that's what he was coaching you in.
Yeah. And he had a brother too. His brother was Peter Navy, and
really?
He was an actor. Yeah.
Yes.
Actor
he was.
And football. He did play in the NFL too.
Well, his last name is Tuiasosopo, so doesn't that mean you automatically get drafted?
I think so. Yeah. I think somebody is just waiting to draft anybody with that last name for the most part, for any sport, really. I mean, they were all gifted in throwing. Anything throwing and hitting, they were gifted in.
Peter Navy Tuiasosopo. I think that sounds like an actor from a movie I've seen recently.
Really? What movie is that?
Well, the movie is Necessary Roughness.
This year, the Texas State Armadillos are a little short on talent.
Show me the arms, son.
Throw the ball, genius. How about that? He stinks at two sports.
But Coach Riggs thinks he knows where to find it.
I never saw anybody fire that football the way you did.
Maybe you should stay here with all your high school trophies. I wonder just how great you might have been.
Now Paul Blake is back to finish the season he started 16 years ago.
I hope he gets younger as he gets closer.
Whoa, a 40-year-old freshman?
Yeah, maybe he knew Elvis.
We're taught to respect our elders. Well, I'm not that old.
Trying to win with raw talent won't be easy.
Again!
Because this is as raw as it gets.
Once more! Come on now! That's better.
Will be the laughing stock of college football.
Blow the whistle! Blow the whistle!
What do you think we are now?
Peter Navy, he played, I think, one of my favorite characters in the movie was Manu the Slender.
Yeah. He was the
So-
center for Blake. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever actually get a chance to meet him?
I don't think I actually did. I mean, there was many times during the summer, like when it wasn't an official practice, but we were getting together with our coach, and there were many other Tuiasosopos on the field with us. So
yeah.
I don't know if I ever met Peter, but wonderful family. With everybody that I met was like super kind and crazy athletic.
Wow. Cool. That is an interesting tie-in. That is not why I recently decided to watch the movie. Since we just talked about the program and was looking at watching college football movies, and that is a much more serious look at the life and times of college football, I actually just got in the mood to watch a different college football movie. And so this one seems really to start with the story of SMU, which is Southern Methodist University, and it starts with the death penalty for the school, and the death penalty is an NCAA set of penalties that were so severe that it killed the program, because SMU was similar to the way Texas State is portrayed early in this, where they were a very highly ranked team. They had a lot of professional football players that came out of the school, and they did really well all the time, had a lot of big money. The most famous, I think, is Eric Dickerson. There might be a couple others that are similarly famous, but Eric Dickerson was always, for me, the biggest player that came out of SMU. But this movie seems to want to take that initial premise and make a comedy out of the aftermath. And also, as an aside from the program, this is also where Alvin Mack and Latimer play lesser roles. The same actors aren't as big of the stars in this one as they were in that one.
Right.
But this movie really does, it came out 2 years before the program. And so I think that David Ward, who wrote and directed the program, probably saw this movie and thought, oh, I can write a better story on this subject. But I think that this movie here,
slightly different. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go so far as better, because this movie here it's entertaining, and it has a lot of things about it that are good. I think that the initial premise or the initial idea is to take the largesse and the violations, and I'm going to say violations in air quotes, because the violations at that point were really just paying the players, which is really becoming commonplace now with NIL deals and various other things, and that's all happening now, and it really should have been happening the whole time.
Should have been.
But the result of that is that you have this death penalty issued to the school because they are repeat offenders, and they need to now make a team out of real students who are just trying out. From there, hilarity ensues.
Sorry, I was stuck on Reggie Bush in my head for a second. Like, there was no transition in my head. I was like,
you were stuck on Reggie Bush? Because he got the violation for the Heisman Trophy?
Because he was all up in the violations. So when you were talking earlier, And then my long pause there, when you were talking earlier about like, all the violations and all that, and how players are now getting paid, I was stuck in the thought of, this is Reggie Bush, like poor Reggie Bush. He got all those violations. He got Heisman Trophy taken away from him for nearly 20 years. And now these kids are getting paid. And then they just gave him his Heisman Trophy back. So,
well, with him, it was kind of, they just took the physical award from him. Whenever college sports does this, they have different penalties where they will have a coach vacate wins, or they will say someone else vacates a championship. That, yes, that becomes their penalty, and that is what is on the official record. But anyone who was alive at the time, or anyone who saw it, always thinks that, that this team won, or they won the championship, or this coach had this many wins. And so that no one really, the penalties don't seem to really have a lot of teeth in that manner. When they say that Reggie Bush didn't win the Heisman, it's like, well, yeah, he did. I saw him do it.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't take it and say, well, we're just going to give it to the runner-up, which would be cool. They could be like Miss America. They could say, if the winner of the Heisman Trophy is unable to perform his duties, then the runner-up gets the trophy. Of course, the runner-up would throw it in the trash and say, I didn't win.
I didn't win it. Right. Yeah. All right. Sorry. I was stuck in the Reggie Bush.
No, that's totally fine. I get it, because the idea of really the initial premise of this is something where now you look at this and think, well, this really shouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
Because these players should get paid for what they're doing because of how much money is being generated by college football, and how that college football subsidizes all of the other sports, that, these guys should get paid.
And the program exposed like some of the extent of what some of the kids are willing to do for a particular football program. And, at the end of the day, you got somebody who's, willing to go ahead and go from third year punt team to being a starter with the help of roids.
Yes.
Right. So, he's willing to do anything for the program because, and then yet the program's like, money, right? And then you got the sad side of like, or the blackout of everything, or the death. What is it called?
It's called the death penalty.
Yeah, the death penalty. Yeah.
And it's just a series of penalties where you don't have any scholarships. You can't do bowl games. When SMU had it, they had 1 year where they couldn't have any home games. And so this is the initial premise, or the kicking off point of the movie. And then from there, it really starts to delve into different parts of a lot of different stories. There is the morality play, I think, of, Coach Gennaro, how he's going to be the tough-nosed coach that's going to get this program cleaned up and bring them all around and have them play football and do a college program the right way. And you have the 34-year-old quarterback. Was it Paul Blake, played by Scott Bakula?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Played by Scott. Yeah, it always takes me a minute when I say Scott Bakula's name because because he's so associated me with Quantum Leap.
Yes.
So I want to refer to him from that character, and really he's done quite a few other characters. He's had a great career, but I want to call him Dr. Sam Beckett all the time from Quantum Leap, and that's not his name. At the time of this movie, the 34-year-old quarterback who did not go to college because his parents died, and his dad died, and then he was going to take care of the farm instead, and so he then skipped school, skipped all that opportunity, didn't do it, and then now they brought him back at 34 and said, hey, why don't you come on off that farm and get over here and throw some pigskins around?
And I want to know what was the selling point, though? Because, like when Coach is out there talking to him and he's like, oh, come on, you don't have a program. You guys just have a bunch of people that you pulled off the streets. You want me to bring my 34-year-old self out there and get destroyed? No, I'm not coming, and then all of a sudden he's there. It's like, well, what was the selling point? Oh, it was the high school trophies. It was that last dig, huh? It was that last dig.
Yes, it was a master class in passive aggressiveness.
What passive aggressiveness?
It was totally passive aggressive to say that, you only get your high school trophies. Why don't you come here to this losing program and get no college trophies?
Go 2-12 or whatever, 2-8.
They didn't know 1 and 1.
Yeah, 1-8-1. That's
right. Because that is another thing too that when you talk about movies this old, where when I was watching it my wife was saying that she thought it wasn't realistic that they would tie because they would just go to overtime. And it's like, well, no. Back then, college did not do overtime.
Right.
So you had a lot of ties. I think that getting back to the central point of at least what the story that is doing is not only are they going to then try to get the program to be better, but then also it is to bring together this ragtag group of players. And so the journey that this movie is going to then bring us through is about following all their different storylines. And I think that makes it really a different experience than the program, because in the program, it feels like the program is the thing and all these other pieces are part of it. All the other characters and everything are part of a thing that is, they are aspects of this living, breathing organism that is the program. Whereas in Necessary Roughness, it doesn't feel like there is a central solid organism that everything's around. It is more like a collection of stories, and they, oh, by the way, happen to be on this football team.
Yeah, I think with the program, though, at least it felt like there was more of a story arch with the individuals, some of the key individuals in there, versus on Necessary Roughness. There are story arches. I just don't feel that they're as significant as the program story arches. Maybe it's because this is a comedy, and I'm not necessarily invested as much in picking apart all the different story arches. Now that I'm saying that out loud, it's like, well, no, every little character has a little something, and it's not to me, it's not as tangible as like the story arches in the program.
Yes, I agree. And there is an aspect of it is because it is a comedy, maybe that is why it is done this way. There are several interesting points. They really could delve into the Paul Blake character, what it is like to try to go back to school at 34 years old, because part of it, which was interesting to me, was that he goes all the way back to school, like goes and lives on the school where he's in the dorm. He's in a dorm. He's really going back to school. He could have stayed on his ranch and just commuted, taken a couple classes, gone to practice, gone home, lived a normal life. But he decided to go full into living on campus with the students and being a part of the football team, which was to me an interesting choice, but also then something that you could potentially look at as an opportunity missed as far as, okay, well, we could delve into what does that look like? Why would he do that? What does it look like? What does his life look like? And how does that work? But instead, what we get really is, he is the de facto leader of the team because he's the quarterback, and he doesn't seem to necessarily know how to, at least early on, doesn't know how to lead them, learns to lead them, and of course, as our star, he will then form a relationship with the girl who happens to be, it was a Dr. Suzanne Carter, the college professor, played by Harley Jane Kozak. And so he's going to have that arc as well. And that's really more of his through line. He is really in this movie, the straight man. And what I mean by straight, I don't mean like he's the heterosexual man. I mean that he's not funny. Everything around him is funny. Sinbad as the defensive tackle. It's funny. Manu the Slender, which is what I will always call him because Rob Schneider, who was the commentator of the game,
voice
funny.
Of your armadillos.
Yes, the voice of armadillos. Funny. And Manu the Slender is really Manu Mana, but he's Manu the Slender for me from now till death. Jason Bateman, who is underutilized once you've seen Dodgeball.
Underutilized, yes.
You see that they really underutilized this comedic genius right here, and also they have the other supporting characters. Larry Miller, who's definitely always interesting and funny as the bad guy, the Dean Elias, and to create in this movie a bad guy, which is really just this Dean that doesn't care about football, doesn't want them to play football, doesn't want to have a football team, thinks that it should only be academics and that all this money and resources should not go to football. He then is portrayed as the bad guy. It really, even that doesn't feel as complete because his evilness is to create the scrimmage with the inmates from the prison, which is great and funny, hilarious, and a bunch of old NFL players that are on the team. Well, Andy Vander Holyfield, who, by the way, with the Vander Holyfield part, did you notice that when he got on the bus, how he said,
"I don't feel so good. I think I swallowed a finger."
And did you think about when you heard that this is before his ear was bit by Mike Tyson?
No. I didn't even, I heard the line. I was like, oh, that's funny. Like big mean guy, right? I didn't even put two and two together until you just said that. That is hilarious. That is hilarious because this is well before the whole biting of the ear. Oh my
Yes,
God.
because at this time, Evander Holyfield is the undisputed heavyweight champ of the world, and I believe Tyson was still in jail because this is 91. Right. So either he was in jail or no, he wasn't in jail yet. He was on trial. This was when his trial for the rape charges started, and so Evander Holyfield at that time became the heavyweight champ of the world because he beat Buster Douglas, and so that's what he was then. And so when they said that it wasn't,
no,
I think it's just an interesting premonition of so then you understand that your future will be.
Nope. I just it was like one of those soft chuckles, right? It's
but getting back to the villain idea was that the whole story premise seemed to focus around just a single individual class. And as if failure in this one class or not succeeding as well in this one class would then undo the whole program and make all the guys where they couldn't play football. And so it all feels, when you take it all together, it feels like a combination of ideas that are good that are underexplored.
Yeah, like I agree now that you're saying it the way that you're saying it. As you were mentioning that I can almost visualize some storyboard of here are some ideas that the director and the writers had as to how to transition the story along, and they grabbed them off the board as it made sense and was like, okay, let's do this scene, let's do this scene, let's do this. But there's really no development or meat and potatoes to some of those storylines and arches that we're mentioning.
No, they're not. And what I do give this movie a lot of credit for is, even with these obviously glaring deficiencies, it's still a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I still had a great time. There's various other comedic quotes and stuff in there that I could pin out that I thought was funny. Little things like, to me, when I really think about the lost promise of Jason Bateman in the last, the last game, the second to last play of the last game when they have to score the touchdown to then be able to do the try. Jason Bateman just says,
"How many timeouts do we have?" 3. Can we take them all now?
That to me was just like, I was like, why wasn't there more of this? More Jason Bateman.
Yeah, because he's just in the background, but it's like the tryout, you get a little Jason, and then like at the bar or some party, you get a little Jason, and then that's it. And then it's the last game.
Well, there's the booster.
Oh, with the booster.
The boosters, right? When they had the boosters with the jackets, which really shows you how thirsty these boosters were, because they were getting all of this love and praise for a tie.
Right.
Not even a win, a tie. And so so there's a little bit of that, but not as much else beyond that of the Jason Bateman character. So really what this movie gives you is, I think it feels like a smaller story in that I felt that it should have been something definitely bigger, in that these guys are overcoming all of these NC2A violations and trying to figure out how to pick themselves up and reinvigorate the school and the program and everything about it. Whereas it's not that. It is a comedy with a bunch of different storylines that are entertaining to watch. I do end up caring if they win or not at the end. And I will suspend disbelief, because it is the Texas Colts and not the Texas Longhorns. I will suspend disbelief and say, yes, you're right. A team with 17 players could have beat the number one team in the nation at the end of the season.
Sure,
that could have happened. Absolutely. 100%. And so I'm willing to do that. But I found that when thinking about this dichotomy, I don't know, did you experience any of this as well, where you found that the more you turned your brain off with this movie, the more you enjoyed it?
Yes. No, absolutely. And as we were talking today, I was going to coin the phrase that I'd used before. This is a good sick movie. I've never mentioned it here discussing with you.
A sick movie.
And it's exactly what you said. When you're sick, your brain isn't functioning, like, especially if you've got the vid, right? I mean, for those of us that have had the vid, it's like watching paint dry is pretty good, right? And it's like, yeah, I'll turn off the brain and just watch paint dry. I'm not necessarily saying that this movie is that bad, that is what is needed in that moment. But a sick movie to me is like one of those movies that you don't need to put a whole lot of concentration or effort into the storyline and try to pick apart certain things and try to piece together what's going to happen before it happens. It's just sit back, enjoy this movie, sick or not, and just turn off the brain. Just don't think about it and just enjoy the little one-liners and the one little zingers that are there. But I have to make a mention, at least for me and for my wife, I thought this movie was funnier when I first watched it versus now. It still was fun and it was still entertaining, but I remember thinking of this movie being way funnier than just, some of the, yeah, that's good, kind of moments. Whereas like, I swear, I thought it was like rolling on the floor moments when this movie initially came out. And maybe it's aged and it's aged pleasantly. It's like a nice fine wine, or it's a fine cheese that has to age, not the one that has the maggots in it, not that cheese. Maybe that tastes good, but
yeah, I don't eat that cheese.
Yeah. I mean, there is that goat cheese that has maggots in it, but we won't talk about that. But this is aged well, and it's aged in a way that it's entertaining.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, and I actually have thoughts on why that is the case, and so I will start with my first one. So my first thought is that the part of the reason why it was riotously funny back then. So I'm gonna digress for a quick second and say part of that too is this is when Sinbad is at the peak of his powers. So anything that said,
that's true.
Funny. It's funny.
I mean, that's true. Sinbad was at the peak of his power. I'm marveling at the way that you even said the peak of his powers.
He was. Sinbad could have read the Constitution of the United States and you'd been laughing halfway through We the People. Right? So that's how funny he was at that time. And so there's part of that with him. But the other thing of it is some of the different touch points that were new at the time. One of the ones I can think of is the scene with the scrimmage with the prisoners. Really is the type of thing in a football movie up to that point you hadn't really seen. It is funny in an uncomfortable way and everything, but at the same time, I guess uncomfortable is not the right word. It's kind of like a funny violence where and that's I think the best way to describe it is a funny violence, because you don't legit think anyone's really getting hurt. But they have the thing, they get beat up a bit, and then they, do the whole, I'm in so much pain thing. And then, then they get on and get off the bus. They get off them and go to the bus. And then they have Dean Elias just maniacally cackling. And the idea of that and everything was newer then than it was now. I also think that there is a part of it where Rob Schneider, who actually became more famous after this from Saturday Night Live, which I believe he was on Saturday Night Live at the time, but he definitely wasn't one of the main players yet. And so what he's doing is now something where we've seen that in so many movies, so many SNL skits, so much stuff that it now has competition for him doing this shtick. Whereas at this time, this was it. He really was just the wisecracking things that he was doing in this for this movie were newer.
Right. No, those are some really good points. And I can follow. I wish I had some to yin against your yang or whatever on that.
Oh, but no, I have. I can give you more. Right. Yeah, I got more for you. And so another one, referencing a movie that came out 9 years later. So 9 years later, The Replacements comes out. And in The Replacements, Orlando Jones plays Clifford Franklin, another wonderfully great receiver who is super fast but can't catch. Orlando Jones is funnier than Dwayne Davis. Dwayne Davis was much better as Alvin Mack, where he was menacing, than his comedy stylings as far as a receiver who's really fast and can't catch. So you see that done a bit better. And also the novelty, in a sense, of what Kathy Ireland's Lucy Draper does, having the girl field goal kicker, and she can handle it, and she can hold her own, because when a guy pushes her down, which is a foul, by the way.
Really, I was going to say it's a foul, right?
there were a lot of fouls in this movie that were uncalled.
We'll have to have a separate segment just on the ridiculousness.
Really could. There is a lot of roughing the passer going on in that last game when they're just hitting Paul Drake for no reason. Like the ball is gone, the player's been tackled, and then Flat Top comes and hits him. Which Flat Top, I mean, really, he is a chef's kiss bad guy football player. I mean, that is. Yeah. It looks like they drew him in a room and said, we need to get this as our bad guy football player, because he is picking on them and messing with them for no reason, and he looks like he's made of leather or something, and so it's like, so he's just perfect. He
looks like an action hero of some sort, but
but not like a good action,
but not the
hero.
one that goes in the box, right? Yeah,
no, like like he's like the action
quality
hero
control guy,
that they left out, you know. Yeah, like he's the one. Like he's the one that they send off to somewhere where it's like, well, you didn't have money for the good one, so you get this. You get Flat Top.
Well, and you know what's crazy is like in the 90s, there was a dude I played with that was kind of like that. Like your stereotypical football guy. Like, okay, hey, dude, can you spell football? That was a joke. Like, hey, can you spell football? Like.
Okay,
because he was just because he was such a knuckle dragger.
Yeah,
like,
but I don't.
I play football, like
I feel Flat Top was smarter than that, right? There's something about Flat Top. I'm like, I just don't think he was stupid.
Oh, and there's depth to Flat Top.
There's depth to Flat. First off, Flat Top was played in this movie brilliantly by Tom White Knight, and that's another thing. His name is Tom White Knight.
White Knight, yeah,
White Knight, right? And so that to me was already like they. So Tom White Knight comes in, just does this Flat Top character who's bullying them for no reason, and that to me was part of the genius of the whole portrayal, which is the thing where there's no reason for him to be bullying them. They're not a big deal team. They're a bunch of laughable losers. They're offers. They're the undefeated Texas Colts, and he still cares about them. But then he just has this seemingly hate for them for no reason. And yes, in my personal backstory of him, he is a double chemistry and physics major, and he is going to be well on his way to, after his NFL career, he will then go into research.
That's your additional backstory.
Yes, he's going to go into research, and he's going to develop a new material that roller coasters will be on.
Okay, I like that. So this is a new material that the roller coasters are going to roll on.
Right, like the railing that a roller coaster is on, he's going to come up with something new for that to help with the stability of the roller coasters and the speed. Yeah, and that's why, I feel that Flat Top had a break, and he had a lot going on.
I think he was just your basic football player. I mean, that's where I'm going. I mean, he gets punched in the face by Blake, and then he's like, I'm going to come after you,
Well, he also gets punched in the face and doesn't really move. And that's my Flat Top right there. He's he's my total made up villain for no reason in this movie other than the movie has to have a villain.
Okay, now we have to have a spinoff. Can we fund a spinoff? Can we do this? Flat Top spinoff?
No, because I don't know if that's an interesting movie because basically let me say the life of Flat Top. So what happened with Flat Top is after the loss, they definitely hurt his draft stock because he's the captain of the team, and so therefore he needed to. He was going round one, but they lost the game to a team with 17 players, and that's not good. Also, Manu Man of the Slender knocked his face mask off at the end of the game, so he was a lock at first round. But then really what ended up happening was he went into third round by I'm thinking, let's see. So if they're from Texas, he's a little bit southern. So let's just say he went to the Saints. So the Saints got him at a discount for the third round because back then first round got a lot of money. Then before they did the caps that they have in the NFL now. So he had a successful career in the NFL. He had a successful career, played for 8 or 9 seasons. Started for most of them, made a couple of Pro Bowls. Not the best player, but not the worst either. And then afterwards, he decided, he was going to try his hand at coaching for a bit, but then realized that Flat Top hates people, so that's out. And then he was going to try broadcasting again, but then once again, Flat Top is not the most eloquent person, but he also still just doesn't like people. And then he also, when they brought him up in the broadcast, they would talk about the accolades of his NFL career. He had a solid career with his Pro Bowls, but every now and again, some smart person would bring up this Texas State game, and that just sets Flat Top off. So what he decides to do is, after this, he says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my NFL money and I'm going to start my own company. It's Flat Top Materials Incorporated. And it's going to be, and what we're going to do is we're going to do some experimentation, because I'm going to take my double majors, my chemistry degree and my physics degree, and I'm going to figure out how can I build a material that we can put roller coasters on that will create a more exciting experience for the customers, can go faster, and also be stable and safe. And that is what Flat Top did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's not quite the villain.
No. He moved back to Texas because that is the home office of Six Flags, and he wanted to be close to there because he knew that would be their number one customer. And then once Flat Top finally did develop his material, fladamantium, and then the fladamantium was what he developed, and they use it to this day to thrill children of all ages.
And people under 250 pounds.
That is the genius of Flat Top. Flat Top was a big guy, and he knew the trials and tribulations of big guys riding roller coasters. So he made a material that the minimum weight could be raised to 350 pounds.
Okay. All right, now you're selling me on this. He's a good guy.
Yeah, but
see, at first, I was just going to say, at first I was just thinking like he was just like a Jeff Bosworth, knockoff.
You mean Brian Bosworth, the boss?
Brian Bosworth, yeah.
The boss, yeah.
Well, he was just a Brian Bosworth from Temu before Temu was around.
I think that was the look he was going for, but Flat Top is a deeper person. And Flat Top had his deepness here, and that's what he decided to do. And now, don't get me wrong, he was petty, because as I said, he made his fladamantium only handle up to 350 pounds, right? And that is because Manu the Slender was more than 350 pounds, and he wanted to make sure that guy would never have fun on a roller coaster again.
Yeah, that was his goal.
It was.
After that game.
It was. Yes. Yeah, no, he wants everybody to be happy other than Manu the Slender.
I love the way that you tied that all back together, like right back to the moment of the mask getting torn off, just because, like, in that moment, that's when he just like totally thought of all of this, like in his stupor of being knocked out.
Yep.
He instantly thought of this, and he knew what his future was.
Yes, he did. And then he went on to retire, and he moved to a more sunny destination, bought a little bit of land in Hawaii. Why? Because Manu was the Samoan, so he wanted to then just to put a little thumb in the eye there, and he decided he's going to live over there in Hawaii and buy some property. That's what he did.
Right.
Yeah. The helicopters back and forth, hopping different islands. Yeah, helicopters. Yeah. He's sure. He does that.
Sure.
All right. So
I like speed submarine. I mean, because he invented such something that was so cool. He could use it as a submarine.
A fladamantium is only water resistant up to 50 feet. So it would not be good for a submarine. I mean, you could maybe use it some for a boat, but it's kind of heavy. So because it needs to be a sturdy product to handle all of the G-forces and the G-forces and weight that a roller coaster is going to give you. And that's
right.
Yes.
Right. But it can't handle the pressure of the ocean below 50 feet.
Correct. That would be too much. Yes, it'd be too much pressure to get the bends. And the material starts to degrade. That they did some tests on it. They were going to try to use it for underwater aircraft, but then Flat Top said, no, we have a singular focus here. There's a vision of this company. We are going to make the best roller coaster material ever. And that is what they did.
I mean, at least he didn't try to make some submarine company to go see the Titanic for like $250,000. But
Flat Top doesn't roll like that.
Flat Top doesn't roll like that.
No. Flat Top likes it on land. He's all about land.
He's all about the land.
All about land. Not a lot of sea, a lot of land. So you know what? That does make me realize too. I believe that my story was inaccurate there. He would not go to Hawaii. He would go to Nebraska. That's where he would go.
Yeah, he feels more like a Nebraska.
Yeah, he feels like Nebraska. That's where he's going. Yeah, he's Nebraska, southern Nebraska, northern Oklahoma area. Like just kind of going back and forth, but got a big plot of land in Nebraska. Yeah. Yeah, that's how Flat Top is living.
I think.
He's kicking back right there. Got
Definitely.
a couple,
and he's got
couple.
all the wheat, just like perfect flat top, just like his head.
No, the grass is 100%. It's the grass, is
all of it.
Yes,
it's like all the way up to the corn.
Perfect manicured. Yes. And his driveway is kind of squared off like his chin, so it has a little indenture right there, so you can just dip the car down. Yeah, that's how Flat Top rolls. Okay, so other than the life,
American Dad.
What did you say?
It looks like an American Dad, like American Dad. You know the cartoon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
no.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's okay. All right. So other than the life and times of Flat Top, which were amazing. By the way, yeah,
your story was better than the movie.
He had an amazing life. So I just okay. So other than life and times of Flat Top, I'm trying to move forward. So
I'm trying, but I just okay. The roller coasters. I'm trying. Oh God.
So what did you think of the ending of it?
I thought it was great for a stereotypical comedy. How'd you feel it portrayed football?
I think that the portrayal of football was really understated, underutilized. It really wasn't there. They really just had a few. They showed the first game and the showing of the defense. The defense of the one player that came in for the defense, and so they had that, and then they showed the ending of the tie where it was just raining and it's a monsoon. They show a couple plays, then Kathy Ireland or Lucy Draper, which I mean, she's always going to be Kathy Ireland to me because if you were live at that time, she's Kathy Ireland. And so she kicks the field goal and they tie, and then the boosters are all excited to buy them a bunch of sport jackets, and then the rest of the football is like the last game, which the last game was admittedly fun. I think you really did describe it correctly in that this is, while I'd never thought of the term a sick movie, it is a sick movie. It is a fun movie to sit around and watch when you're not wanting to think too much about anything. And there is a lot of little tidbits for everybody and everything. And I don't think you have to, because the football is portrayed in, honestly, on almost a comical way. It doesn't require you to like football or in any way to enjoy this movie.
You don't need to know.
Yes, you just really need to have it's a great movie to root for the underdog. And they're the underdogs on the field. They're the underdogs off the field with Dean Elias. And I don't know if Paul Blake is the underdog as far as he and I'm sorry. He and I want to call her Suzanne, but are he and Dr. Carter going to work or not work? I don't know if that's an underdog story because they don't really resolve that. You just, I guess, assume it. They won the game and she was there, so that you assume that relationship continued and went fine, but she wasn't really a part of the celebration or anything at the end. And so the football itself, it wasn't that great. But I mean, I think it had to be football. I don't think do you think you could do this movie with a different sport? Because I don't.
No, I don't think that you can. Because kind of to the point of you don't have to really understand or know much about football or even care about football to understand the premise of just the penalties, especially in the 90s, because it was something that was pretty rampant that was going around. Different penalties for different organizations and different levels of NCAA. It seemed like everybody was getting some kind of fine or penalty for something. So, you don't just knowing that premise that, this is a football team that had been heavily penalized. It's like, okay, cool. You could just enjoy watching that, just knowing that. You don't need to know football about it. You just know that era and that time period. And yeah, I mean,
do you feel that this movie, even though it was a comedy and lighthearted, at any point did you feel that it had an Adrian moment?
No, I don't think it did. I wanted one, I don't think it had a natural Adrian moment. What about you? Did you find one there? Is there something that was lingering?
Well, I wanted to say that there was in different ways of trying to think about what Adrian moment truly means, but there really wasn't. There was not an alteration or a change in our hero, and really this is the Paul Blake story. You can argue that it's about the Ed Gennaro story because he's the. Sorry, I think that the reason you could think that about Ed Gennaro is because when in that class when Paul Blake writes the paper about him, it's as if it's an exposition to frame the movie that way. But when you experience the movie, it's the Paul Blake story. And so no point in time did I feel that he was really in any type of a sense of doubt that he, and when I say that, I think that the lack of a sense of a doubt was he was working hard to try to get it where these guys, he wanted them to just win one time because he hadn't lost the game in, apparently his high school went 4 years of undefeated.
4 years of undefeated. And we didn't even know that about him until he went to Dr. Susan Carter's house, which like all of a sudden I'm presuming that they were boyfriend, girlfriend at this, or like he just shows up and they start talking about like, oh, I want to, pretty much like what you're saying. Like he was like, oh, I just want to be there for the guys and I want them to know what it's like to win, And it's like that whole moment is like towing the line because he doesn't come in saying that he wants to quit or anything like that. So he never has that moment that he needs to be pulled back into the goal or pulled back into, why are you here? You could do this, it's maybe it's not even towing the line. It's just kind of like around there of an almost Adrian moment of what we're looking for. Cause I felt like she was encouraging him with the whole, well, I was a high school cheerleader and I remember how I used to call you and hang up when you would answer the phone. It was like the Adrian moment, not for the sport, but the Adrian moment for their relationship almost.
Yes, I guess so. You could argue that because
she was raising him up with the old high school love.
Yeah, because he was trying to ask her out, but sometimes you could argue that, but it wasn't like there. Did you have any doubt they were going to get together?
Oh, no. They were totally gonna. I mean, she wasn't gonna hook up with anybody else. I mean, like, you're either gonna be the teacher or the love interest, right? And it's not like, I don't know. I never got the impression, even when I first saw it, that there was, you're gonna be the teacher. I gotta listen to you. You're gonna be the sophisticated one that's gonna show me the ways of school. No.
You didn't think she was gonna be Michelle Pfeiffer from Dangerous Minds, and really get them to be a ragtag group of future journalists.
That would have been great. Like that would have been a great thing to the whole storyline.
But yeah, so I never felt any doubt there with that. I don't think he had any doubt as far as what he wanted to do. He just wanted them to win. You're right. Again, I think that your question about like him going to her place really does tie it into how this is a good sick movie, because when you stop to think about the TikTok of that, they have the fight at the bar, and then he decides to go to her place. And the first question, of course, is, how do you know where I live? I've had several teachers throughout my life. I don't know where any of them lived. So stalker much? Anyway.
I mean, at least it's age appropriate. It's not like, like, oh, you're an 18-year-old freshman who is stalking me.
No, there's nothing wrong. I think it's actually a cute aspect of the movie. There's nothing wrong with their relationship. I mean, it makes sense. They are contemporaries. They apparently went to high school at the same time, and apparently,
right.
One of the odder little throwaway lines of the writing was about how the fact of him winning this championship made it where she then fell in love with him. I thought that was an odd way to go. What else? What are your final thoughts about this movie?
I enjoy it. It's funny. It wasn't the big laughs that I was remembering, like I was saying earlier. I could recommend it to just about anybody. I was surprised my children actually sat around and watched it.
Did they enjoy it?
Movie? Yeah, which I was kind of surprised.
Really? I'm not. I would expect they would enjoy it. It's a fun movie.
The other movies that we watched, they didn't even want to, like, they're like, oh, this is an old-timey movie, I'm out, And this was probably one of the older ones that we've recently have done for the show. And I was surprised. I was like, hey, do you guys want to come here and watch this? And it's kind of a football movie. It's a little bit of a struggle of things that have occurred in a college. And you get to see people who really probably shouldn't play football, try to play football with a handful of guys that could play football. And like, come on, it's a comedy. There won't be anything weird in it or anything like that. And they actually enjoyed it. They thought it was funny. The one weird scene for them was all the former NFL guys walking on the bus, you know, coming from the institution. And they're like, well, who are these? We're like, oh, these are all football players, and that's Evander Holyfield. And, you know, we had to pause and talk about like who all these people were. But, you know, I mean, it was just the age gap, right? I mean, this was the 90s. So somebody knew, if you didn't know of football in the 90s, that's really one of the only references that you're not going to get in the movie.
Well, no, those guys were old in the 90s. They're all they're all retired. I mean, the first guy was the first guy is Dick Butkus. In the 90s, in the 90s, most people knew him as an actor.
When this movie came out, everybody knew who these people were, is like my point.
I think if you were, I don't know. I think if you're a football, if you're a football player, yes, they were this is 91, the Cowboys were starting their run. So but Troy Aikman wasn't one of the people. So these were all football players, mostly from the 50s, from the 60s and 70s.
No.
Yeah, the most recent one there was Randy White, who was in the Cowboys in the early 80s, and then I think it was Roger Craig, the running back.
It was like Roger Craig.
Right, but he's a running back from
49ers.
The 80s. Right? So at the time, when this movie was made, he was retired. It was Earl Campbell, Roger Craig, Tony Dorsett, Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice would have been the only one. Jerry Rice and Herschel Walker, the two of them would have still been playing, and maybe Randy White. I think Randy White was the late 70s, early 80s, was when he was done. These guys were old then, and I think you would have had to have been a football fan to have recognized them then. Not the least of which is because, you know, football players were in helmets all the time. So unless you're really watching football, and none of these players were quarterbacks. So unless you were...
Well, in the 90s, I was watching football. And in the 80s...
Right, that's what I'm saying. Unless you were watching a lot of football, you wouldn't recognize these guys.
Well, I don't remember what I was saying. But as far as the movie goes, yeah, man. I mean, like, my closing comments on the movie is it's entertaining. Turn off the brain. Enjoy the movie for what it is. You're not going to learn anything football. It's loosely based on a true story, which is kind of interesting if you wanted to dig into that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's a good, fun, laughable, entertaining for the whole family.
Man, Jim, it is always great to talk about movies with you. If you really enjoy the show, please become a supporting member at thenextreel.com/join. For $5 a month, you will gain members-only access to bonus show content for this and many other shows in the Next Reel family of film podcasts. Like, rate, listen, and most importantly, share this podcast with anyone you know that loves sports and movies.
Sports and movies.